Welcome back to Off the Tap. This week is episode 73, and we're doing Karbach Brewing Company's Love Street Light.
If you add 7 and 3, it is a multiple of 5, so this is a fancy episode.
Wait, oh yeah, it is. It's 10. I had to think about that for a second, and I haven't had a beer yet.
Good Lord, you had to think about 7 and 3? What's
Yeah,
the
no.
floor on what you don't have to think about adding? Single digits?
Well, both of those were single digits, so
No, I know, but I meant like 1. Did you have to think about adding that one up?
like 1 and 2, I think is probably my limit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Glad that we could get that clarified.
So this is a light lager coming in at 4.2%. I'm about ready for this to smack me in the face after a month of no liquor or beer of any kind. So,
yeah. So I know we're gonna jump into this right out of the gate, but so did you run through stats yet? Let me give it a crack. First.
Well, I said we got a 4.2 ABV, and the IBUs are coming in at 10. So it's really low, which is to be expected with a light lager.
So is this a straight up light version of their blonde? It has to be. Right?
That's what I assume. Is the Love Street a blonde? The
Yes.
OG.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So they have obviously, like we said, the Love Street, the OG, the Orig. And then they have a few. I think there's like 3 other versions of it now. The light, and then I know there's a citrus, and I think there's one more, but I'm not 100%.
So this is their. Well, we're just gonna get into it. So this is their. Hold on, let me taste it first. Gosh dang it! I hate to keep teasing.
I know. We need to see the color too. You got to hold it up to the.
All right, so we're back in color biz.
Oh,
it's super super clear,
yeah,
and super look. Dude,
yeah, we can see you through it.
It does, but not as much. Hold on, not as much as the non-alcoholic ones we're doing.
No, yeah, there's definitely a much
Isn't
larger.
That crazy?
It's so weird. I don't know if we just never noticed it before, or if I don't know what happened, but noticing it now is just hilarious.
Fairly very thin head that dissipated pretty quickly. It's almost like if you buy really cheap, like here's how I like to judge my foams. I can't believe we've never brought this up before now. Like if you get that high dollar like drive-through car wash soap, you know how thick that shit is, that's colors, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's a thick, robust head. This is like the cheap dollar store, not even Mr. Car Wash, just like Car Wash King, and you put it in your bucket.
Great value.
Exactly. Immediately there's none. So again, I'm not cutting it down.
It's just blue water. It's not like there's no sud on the top or anything. Yeah. Yeah. It definitely thinned out very fast. It's got a nice stick to the glass though for a little bit. I mean, it's a light lager. I actually haven't had me a Love Street in a while, a regular Love Street. I think the last time I had one. Yeah, well, I think the last one I had was probably back in last baseball season, maybe at one of the Astros games. I think is last time I had a regular Love Street, so it's going to be really hard for me to compare it to that in my ed.
Yeah, I'm gonna say too that I don't know if it's been quite some time since I've had one too, but I don't remember like this one doesn't even give me like okay. Sometimes when you drink like I don't know, I can drink like this is gonna be a stretch here, but like I can drink a Shinerbach, and it can remind me of a Hefeweizen that I had. You know what I'm saying? Like just because I have some point of reference. This doesn't remind me at all of Love Street.
Yeah, it doesn't remind me of it doesn't remind me either, based on what I can remember. But I mean, it is a light, so they're probably taking some things out of it, I assume.
It's also very light. Do you get that vibe?
Yes. What wait, what do you mean?
Like it's just very, very light. Like I think they went for we obviously know they were going for that GTFL version of Love Street, but I think they're 2 completely separate beers. And it's not next light. I'm not cutting it down like that. It's not next light. Yeah. But it is very, very light. And that's maybe a good thing if you're wanting some Love Streets, but you don't want to carry them around with you forever.
Yeah. I mean, that's That's fair. It's definitely not next. Next is just
No, no,
a
no,
can
no,
of
no.
water.
It's back to, but again, back to the GTFL. This is only 96 cows, so it comes in like the industry leader in flavor versus cows.
Mm.
And it's 3 grams of carbs versus 2.6. So in the grand scheme of things, I'm not going to compare the two, but in the grand scheme of things, if you want something that's crafty and you want something that is, and you're a Love Street drinker, I don't think you're going to quite get the taste satisfaction, but you definitely fall in the ballpark of being lighter beer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From
It
a
def.
calorie count and carb perspective.
Yeah. And I guess you could kind of say a hydration feeling factor. You know.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also, I mean, it's not super, super crisp, but it's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree. I agree.
Um, let's just, we're just going to dive into, because again, I've kept you in suspense. So
Yeah.
here's my overall arching thoughts on Love Street.
Okay.
Nothing against Karbach, but had I not, what?
I'm just realizing that my shirt that I'm wearing today,
Oh, it's a peace sign.
it's a peace sign. What
Oh,
are the
how fitting.
odds?
Um, so here's my thing. I would, based on its branding, right?
Mm-hmm.
I judge all books by their cover and taste all beers by
Yes.
their can.
As one
Based
should.
based on its branding, had I not been given a pint of it by accident, zero chance I would have ever tried
Really?
anything. Yeah, not an attractive brand at all to me. It
Really?
doesn't, nope, does not speak. It doesn't speak a beer that I want to entertain. It's not attractive to me. Again, maybe it's just, if I break it down, it's just not a single thing that I ever would have ventured out until somebody handed me a pint of it in an unmarked glass. I drank it and I was like, oh, that's pretty good. What is that? And they were like, oh, it's a Love Street. Obviously not the light, but it's a Love Street. Like, oh, crazy. And I didn't care because it didn't matter. We drank Love Streets all night. It was great. Then I went back to get it, and I remember like even having pints of it, knowing, like looking at the can, going, "Nah, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do something else." It's
What
just
is it
that
about it?
I don't know. It doesn't have anything. I know we're about to go down the whole hippie era thing. It's just, to me, it's not like when I like things that are very basic, right? And I like things. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Like, I need to think through and process through why that's the case. But even their branding on their signs, like, it's just very unattractive to my eye. Or like when you go to the ballpark and they have the Love Street bar, like, like 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna buy a beer. It might be a Karbach product, but I'm gonna buy a beer somewhere else. I don't know why. It's just that's the way that
Dang.
it's programmed in my head. And so it's unfortunate because, like, I can say out of the gate, I mean, kind of like, I probably would not, if I was gonna drink a love, like have something like this, I would definitely go with the regular Love Street. Like, I'm never gonna sub this in its place, just based on the way that it tastes. I would always go with the regular Love Street because I do like the way it tastes. The branding is very, very unattractive to me.
Wow. I
Yeah.
wasn't expecting that because I mean, it's not my favorite, marketing or can design of a beer by any means, but I don't think it's like it doesn't turn me off from the beer. In fact, the first time I saw it, I was like, I wonder what that is. And I
So
tried it.
mine is the complete opposite reaction. Like, I remember seeing it going, I don't even care about that. But I don't know why it is, dude. It's really weird because we drink a bunch of random shit in crazy ass cans. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
and that I don't even think twice about. Sometimes the can is irrelevant or moot, but for some reason that, well, I don't know if it's the color scheme or the way that it's mapped out, and it has nothing to do with the content. I don't care. It's just, again, not. I don't know. It's a weird pre-programming thing.
Yeah, I don't know. That is pretty weird. I mean, there's been cans out there that I've seen, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that doesn't really appeal to me. But this was not one of, or not this one, but the regular Love Street was not one of them. Is it the colors, man? Do you not like the
Uh,
colors on it, or is it the
I
text
I have
writing?
no. I mean, I think it's a combination of the text and the. I think some of it is. how overplayed, and I'm a huge Austin Powers fan, but how overplayed that 60s groovy,
Font.
like psychedelic font was for a period of time. It's
Yeah.
kind of like it's the Comic Sans of branding, if you will, right? Like we
Hmm.
were all using it, we didn't know any better. And now, I mean, dude, again, I hate to go down this pathway, and we didn't plan this today, but I mean, I think for a lot of folks, it's the Nickelback of fonts,
Ooh.
you know? You know,
Oh
like you
man.
you loved it and you still do love it, but like good lord, you don't want to have to hear it again. You know what I mean? That's how I feel like that psychedelic. I mean, I'm okay now, but with Nickelback, but it's so much overuse of that psychedelic scheme and that psychedelic font that from a distance, that's exactly what it is. From a distance, I looked at it and said, like, were you that lazy when you came up with like everybody's done it? You know what I mean? I think that's what happened in my mind. I'm not trash talking Karbach, but that's how my mind programmed it. Obviously, no one gives a shit about my opinion, and if I'm bitching about font on a can, it's fucking irrelevant. Because the beer inside is good. At least the original Karbach. We'll get to ratings on the Love Street Light later.
Yeah. I mean, if
So
you if
break
it,
down. Go ahead.
I mean, if you have something that stems to that area, I don't know how this connects back to like that psychedelic area other than or era other than the name, right? The Love Street name, but if you have something that connects back to that era in any way, you kind of have to use the font. I mean,
But
it's not you can't
do you?
just type out Love Street in Times New Roman and throw it on a can.
I mean, obviously. Well, I'm not the specifics of it. Like, why can't you? Even the light is more acceptable. That's still a 60s font, but the light is okay there
The
for
light
Love
looks
Street.
a lot like that '70s show type thing.
Okay, I'll take that over. You're right, 70s ish. I'll take that over. So now they're not even consistent. Let's break that
Oh
down for a
God,
second. I'm
here we go.
joking. So the the light there, I think, is okay. It's the Love Street part that I'm not a fan of. But I mean, it's dude. I'm talking billboards, everything. I'm gonna read the back of the can, and then I want you to break down your thoughts on it. On groovy days when the breeze is blowing and the music is playing, a nice crisp blonde, delicately hopped with floral German hops, is your kind of nirvana. Love Street Light brings you all the fresh flavors of a fantastic blonde with fewer calories to keep you light on your feet and well into the night. Let's also write a book on the back of this thing. So gather up the group and crack open a Love Street Light for the perfect opener, headliner, or encore of any occasion. It's a whole lot of love with less calories and fewer carbs. Is that a throwback? Is that a callback to the famous Led Zeppelin song? I think it is.
Oh yeah, it is.
Um, they also have a Nirvana throw in there. Obviously, they weren't of that era, but I mean, and I guess that's a term that can be used multiple different ways, and it's pretty socially acceptable.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. What are your thoughts on the branding and your thoughts on,
I
not even
just
the branding? Yeah,
I,
let's talk about it.
I just I here's what I want to know, right?
Mhm.
Is a lot of people, I assume anyways, I'm obviously not a master brewer or any kind of brewer, but I feel like you come up with a name and then you create a beer, right?
No, I think you create a beer and then you come up with the name.
You think so? Because
I
I
think
feel like if you were like for example, throwing it back a little bit when we did the Bowie Bach, right? I feel like you come up with that name and then you're like, cool, now let's make a signature Bach.
so. Maybe, but I think you start off with something in mind. Like you're like, I want to make the world's most perfect Bach, or I want to make a Hefeweizen, or I'm making an Oktoberfest.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fair.
you see what I'm saying? You start off with that, and then you say
But
to yourself,
do you make the beer first or do you just say this is the kind of beer I want to make?
you have to, I mean, obviously, because of the way you're brewing it, you have to declare what kind of beer you're making. You start with that, and then I think what most of them do is they say, I want a Bock, but you know what I don't, and we do it all the time back and forth. I'm actually glad that we're having this conversation. We do it all the time back and forth. They say, I'm gonna make a Bock, and then they go, but you know what? Sometimes I have some Bocks, and you know what I don't like about it? And then they write that down. And then they say, man, it'd be nice if I had a Bach, but if it had this too. And then they write that down. And then their crazy ass molecular minds go, well, you know what would fix that? If I sauteed the hops in a little bit of organic butter or whatever the fuck they do, right? Or if I sun dried the tomatoes that I put in the barrel before I barrel age it, or whatever the hell it is. That's what their brain does. And then the finished product comes out. So they're building these flavors along the way based on what they do and don't like about what's available. They build those flavors along the way. And then when it's a finished product, I think, just like we do, how they taste it and what it reminds them of in the world and what they've experienced in the past is how they generate the brand, I think. Aside from those that follow very strict, like everything has to be themed this or everything has to be themed that.
Because here's my thought with the Love Street, right? Not necessarily this one, but the regular Love Street is like, did they make this beer and then they tasted it and they were like, oh man, that's groovy. You know what I mean? Because when I drink it, that's not my thought. I don't think like, oh, this is groovy, right?
Well, you're right. Okay, I get what you're saying. But
so I'm saying like, did they have, we want to make a blonde and someone, because I just feel like the beer itself doesn't correlate directly to the name in this case. You know what I mean?
Also my struggle with the branding, but continue.
Okay, well that's fair, but I'm just saying, there's a lot of cases where it doesn't really, the beer name doesn't necessarily tie into the style of beer, for example, or the flavor of it or anything. And this is one of those cases, and so I'm just wondering if, someone came in that day and they're like, dude, I have a great branding idea, but we need a beer for it. And they came in and they were like, it's called Love Street. We're going to brand it like it's the 60s, capture another portion of the market here and with some older people maybe, we don't know. And then they were like, all right, what kind of beer should we do? And they probably went through like 2 or 3 different renditions, you know what I mean?
Maybe
of beer.
But I think it's the opposite. I think you had it right to begin with because you don't think that. But like beauty is in the eye of the beer holder, bud. So somebody, probably the brewmaster, brewed this, and based on his term, everybody has certain phrases. I'm sure that y'all could pick out some that you do and don't like after listening to us for however long. But there's certain phrasing that you use when you want to celebrate something, right? Like, you do me a solid, right, bet, or like whatever.
Just because I don't say groovy doesn't mean somebody else doesn't. Yeah.
But if the brewer brewed it and was like I would say, oh, ooh, that's solid. He was like, oh man, that's groovy. And then they were like, oh shit, let's build a brand around that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that's more feasible than saying we have a brand, go build a beer for it. Like that's building it before you even know that they will come.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. But also if you have a good enough brand, you can fit a beer into it. I genuinely feel, I know I keep going back
what
to
else did Karbach have before Love Street put him on the map? I mean, actually, finish your sentence first.
Well, I know I keep going back to it, but I just genuinely feel like the Bowie Bach, the name was thought of first, or they had a Bach like that they didn't have named, I guess, and they just threw it together. But in my head,
which fits your first.
No, I know, but I guess it could work like that. But I feel like somebody came in and was like, "Dude, we have to make a Bach because I was sleeping last night, and you always have great ideas when you're laying in bed, right?" And so they woke up and they were like, "Bowie Bach, boom, that's it."
Okay,
and they went back.
You know what? Okay, so I do think that there's 2 scenarios because in that case,
everyone probably uses both scenarios. Let's be honest.
Yeah, because I mean, they said we need a Bach, and then they were like, "All right, build branding around a Bach." But with this, I find it hard to believe that this one was named Love Street before. I think they brewed a blonde, and then they said, "Oh, that's groovy." Like in your scenario, "Oh, that's groovy," and then they built a brand around it. But with Bowie Bach, you're probably right. They were like, "We need a Bach," and they were like, well, you can brand it whatever you want because it's going to be a Bach. We don't really care how it tastes. Like, it's going to be a Bach. The taste isn't going to give us the branding. You see what I'm saying?
This is why I would love to sit down in person with a master brewer and just get their thoughts, where they get their ideas from, because I'm genuinely interested in that stuff. Because it's fun. You know, as someone who enjoys marketing, like it's interesting to see how people think and how the ideas are formed, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it is interesting because like I said, we might be way out of bounds. I almost wish that there was I love the ones that include some insight. You know, they pull back the curtain on why it's named what it is and then the branding
Yeah.
piece. I don't know with this one if we would be able to dig deep enough to find out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you would have to talk to the person that came up with the idea, came up with the beer. I don't know. It's an interesting thought though. How the names are thought of, when they're thought of, you know. So if you so
Hmm.
you were saying you would say, man, this is solid. So what would you have just named it, like rock? You know,
Yeah,
rock
I don't.
solid,
I mean, I don't know. But yeah, like I use the terminology solid a lot more than I do
or like
groovy.
this is a 6x6 post Bach.
No,
I
I
mean,
don't
that's pretty
know.
solid, bro.
That is pretty solid. Oak Bach.
Ooh, yeah, there you go.
Um, I mean, I guess this
Mm,
isn't a Bach, but yeah, oak blonde oak.
mm.
Um, what else is pretty solid
That's blonde.
that's blonde?
Mm. We're getting into dangerous territory here. Let's move on.
Yeah, we're definitely
Yeah,
towing a.
towing a fine
It's
line right now.
Love Street is a song performed by the Doors, so possibly there's some influence there.
Okay.
Yep.
How could that have
Was
conversation have gone?
Pamela Corson, I believe, was his girlfriend, and she was blonde. So we're really stretching here, but
Listen,
that's bet
we are really trying to connect dots over here.
we are, but that's better than us trying to think of something that's blonde that's solid.
I'm gonna be
So
honest with you. There's a lot higher likelihood that the guy that brewed it just said this is groovy, and they went with
yeah.
that, than
Well,
the correlation between the Doors and a blonde girlfriend.
I mean that still fits the 1968 era of Love Street.
I guess, man. I mean, it
Dude,
does, but
it was again, we're way off topic here, but it was paired right in between The Unknown Soldier and Touch Me on the album.
hmm.
Come on now, touch me, babe. Anyway,
That always just reminds
um,
me of School of Rock.
yes.
Yeah.
Um, so ultimately, I don't think we're going to come to a consensus or consensus, at least on the love for the brand or a conclusion on why it's called what it is. So,
No,
you
yeah.
know,
Because I like the branding, so
okay.
you know, I have nothing negative to say about it. I'm also a huge Austin Powers fan, so anything that
Yeah,
reminds me of the chuckles from Austin Powers is gonna make me enjoy it.
me too for sure. But and maybe that's why I'm so oversaturated with the font. But it is a hometown favorite, obviously in H Town. And I believe, oh, real quick, back to my original question. What else? I mean, that's Love Street's what put Karbach on the map, right?
It has to be either that or the Hopadillo, right?
Ah, yeah. I guess the Hopadillo is very, very popular.
Yeah, because the Hopadillo is probably one of the most or at a time it was probably the most popular IPA in the Houston area, at least.
Yeah, I would say. And that one, I mean, we're not even going to go through all the shenanigans we just did on branding
Yeah, no.
versus not. But I would say the Love Street though has broader, like it's more
Way
approachable.
yeah, way larger market for the Love Street than the Hopadillo,
The
for sure.
second, the second one tastes better.
Well, maybe that's just because you're getting a little buzzed because we haven't had beer in a month.
That's a possibility.
You know.
But the second one does taste better. I'm not saying that this is going to skew my ratings, but the second one does taste better. Um, so speaking of, so it's a hometown favorite. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but
Hmm.
we've got the Love Street bar that's in. It's not really a bar like you would see in like
You,
AT&T
you
Stadium
don't
or
you don't like
RJ.
sit at it. You just go
Now,
order beer from it.
but you know, I think it's right outside the entrance that has the what is that? The first baseline. It's not. I mean, it's kind of
Yeah.
home. No, it's not home plate. It's actually right field. I think technically
It's
between
on
home
the
plate. And right
it's on
field.
the right side somewhere.
But yeah, it's got the massive. When they launched the Crawford Bach, it has the massive Crawford Bach can,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
the Love Street bar is right there. It's got all the ugly Love Street branding on it. But anyways, a staple inside the stadium. Yeah, St. Arnold has their section too, but a staple inside the stadium, you can get a bunch of their offerings there, and it's conveniently located. Also, I will say, maybe it's just for me, and I know the stadium pretty well, but like I can use that as a reference point for everything else.
Yeah.
I'm immediately like,
It,
oh, I'm at the Love Street. Okay, well, I need to go this way.
it's kind of the same thing with the St. Arnold's one too.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
But that all
probably
that
just showing how much we drink at a game.
well, that and I mean yes, but I mean and I would yeah, I guess it's right. It just lets me know like I also too I'm like, "Oh, we should go just for funsies even though I've seen it 100 times. We should hit the Hall of Fame. Ooh, we'll swing this way so we can hit the St. Arnold, right? Or
Yeah.
oh, if I'm going that way then I'll stop by Love Street." But that being said, um what we've I know we've talked about this at length, but I'm going to tie this in. So I was recently enlightened, and by enlightened I mean grossly shocked at first by what they consume at Japanese baseball games. We're going to get into that in a second. Now that I've processed it a little bit, it doesn't seem so weird because they're Japanese folks, but this is how I was approached, or this is how the situation becometh upon me.
Okay.
So they offered some people. There was like a person doing like I don't know if it was the Mexican league that was playing over there, but they were kind of doing something like they do with the NFL. You know how there's like one NFL game that's overseas now.
Yeah. Well, they do 4 of them now, I think.
Okay, well,
But yeah.
the first year it started with 1, and then they went to 2, and then now
Mm.
there's 4, whatever, right? They were doing something very similar between the Mexican baseball league and the Japanese baseball league, and it was hilarious because you know how like Julia would when they go to stadiums within the U.S. they're like Chicago, you got to get an Italian or deep dish, right? And she would get whatever the food is for the stadium. Well, they were doing the same thing,
Yeah.
and the Mexican people, as every single person would do here, offered the Japanese people peanuts. And they were like, literally, their reaction was like, "Oh, what the fuck? Why would I eat peanuts at a baseball game?" And I was
Okay.
like, "What?
Why would you not?
Why would you not? That's like a hot dog, right?"
Yeah.
To which then they were like, "A
Why
hot dog?"
why would you eat a hot dog?
Right? And so then it started showing, I can't remember the exact article, but then it started showing what they do eat. And again, it's not crazy after you digest that they are in Japan, but I just imagine how inconvenient they are. Here we go. Are you ready? Number
Yes.
1 is the yakitori, okay, which is essentially skewered meat on a stick, okay? That kind of fits, right? A little bit, but it's wrapped in different seasonings and it's grilled and there's sauces. I'm not being like they always have their
Okay.
sauces.
That one's not crazy.
Not crazy. It's still a finger food. It's still wrapped in the same little plastic container. I'll buy it. The second one is a bento box, bud. Right? A full straight up Japanese TV dinner that you're purchasing from a concession stand. Okay?
All right.
Number 2 is a takoyaki. It's like those little fried balls that they like start out as like pancake batter kind of, and then they roll them in that thing. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They look delicious, but it's the fact that like, and I guess it makes sense because they're covering all of our stuff in sauces, but dude, everything's just doused in mayo and soy sauce.
Well,
Um,
yeah, that's pretty Japanese, I guess.
but yeah, it's eaten with chopsticks. They can be skewered, but toothpick is the preferred methodology inside the ballpark.
Okay.
Edamame, which, dude, honestly, it makes a lot of sense. But here's the thing: it's just kind of weird, right?
Well, this is what blows my mind, right? Is that's basically the same thing as peanuts.
It's peanuts, I know.
When you boil it down, you know what I
Dude.
mean? You're still shelling it and eating the peas out of the middle. It's peanuts, just
Actually, I mean, I don't want to call a pun, but like one you boil and one you roast. But yes, you're right. When you boil it down, it's the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
dude,
not gonna lie to you though. I would mess
I
up
would
some
slam
edamame
that.
at a
Yeah, I would get
baseball
that.
game.
Honestly,
100%.
we might have a side gig outside the stadium at the
Listen, bro, I'm just saying that
at the
would
will call
slap,
office, dude. Just
bro.
slamming bags of edamame.
Yeah.
I could actually get onto that. If they adopt I tell you what, I'll make them a deal. They adopt peanuts, we'll adopt edamame.
Yeah. Yes.
I know that's only my commitment, but fuck it.
Yeah. Japan, if you're listening.
So there's a chance there. You're saying there's a chance.
Yeah.
Anyways, last one, not last one, but yakisoba. So here's the thing. I just can't.
Isn't that just noodles?
Yeah, it's just noodles, but there's like a fried over easy egg on top of it with like sauces and all. It's just weird to me that like I can't think of anything aside from soggy nachos that I eat with a fork at a ball game. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, to be fair, we do have like barbecue and stuff. It's just not what we get.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah,
But I mean, these are like pretty much staples. Like think about how when you go to a ball game anywhere in the US, right? You're going to have your standard hot dog, then you're going to have whatever their upscale sausage is, right?
Yeah.
And then like you're going to have one that's kind of crafty. It's like the Houston special. It's got like fucking pico on it or something, right? There, I'm sure they have variations, but like this is like a hot dog.
Yeah.
They're always going to have a variation of this.
It is weird. It seems like a lot of extra cleanup, I guess, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Although if I'm being completely honest, the Japanese people are probably a lot better at cleaning up after themselves than Americans are.
Oh,
so,
1,000%. And
so
I honestly, every single picture that I saw, which I don't know how this works, but every single picture I saw, the containers aren't reusable. You have to like turn them back in.
Oh God.
Which makes, I mean, it does make sense. Like that's probably better than the waste.
Better for the environment probably, but good God. I mean, see, listen, that's what I'm saying though. The Japanese are just they're just better people because they're going to go return it. You know what I mean?
That's 100%. They're like, I agree. Curry rice.
Yeah, that just seems like a mess.
Yeah. Donburi. It's a simple one dish meal. It's basically a rice bowl. It's got chicken on it. It's battered and deep fried and tossed in a sauce. Looks delicious. It's just to me, I'm not from there.
I'm not going to a baseball game to have a meal.
No, dude, I'm gonna slam peanuts because I'm nervous. I've come to the conclusion that I eat peanuts because I'm nervous, which I love. But
it gives you it's like sunflower seeds. It's like that's like sunflower seeds to me is like when I was younger and played baseball, right? It was like, I can't put a dip in because I'm 14, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to have these sunflower seeds to like keep me distracted a little bit so I'm not freaking out all the time. So yeah, it's just peanuts are the same thing. I agree 100%.
So, and then other than that, I want a dog every time just because like it's a baseball game. Like, dude, I do that shit at the house sometimes. I'm like, oh, I'm
watching the
looking
game.
forward to this specific game. I'm gonna slam a dog.
Yeah.
Well,
so and quite honestly, there's no hot dog like a ballpark dog.
Oh yeah, dude. We've talked about this half-ass stale bun because Lord knows how long it's been in that heat lamp.
Oh yeah, months.
Lightly water dipped steamed dog.
Yeah.
You're just gonna douse it with all of the free mustard, onion packets,
relish.
And which actually these days, because after COVID, dude, this is one thing that never came back. They don't put the relish trays out anymore.
It's just relish packets now.
Yeah, I mean, well, you get the relish pump, which to me doesn't pump very efficiently. You just get a lot of the juice. But anyway,
that's gross.
And then you got the mustard and the ketchup pumps. But they used to have like onion, like freehand onions out there, and they don't have that anymore. And then they got like they used to have jalapenos and shit out there.
Quite honestly,
probably for the best. But I'm gonna be honest.
Probably regardless of whether COVID hit or not, we probably should have not ever had that because how many of those people you think were just digging their hands in there instead of scooping?
Okay, you say that, but have you ever been to a Quick Trip?
Like the gas station?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, dude, the setup they have for their nachos and for their hot dogs blows away any fucking ballpark in the US, okay? And as if they're just opening that up to the general public, they didn't even pay for a seat inside that bitch. You see what I'm saying? And they're not ruining that one. So why can't we trust that the 40,000 people that paid for a fucking seat can't be trusted around a combo full of onions? Anyways, we've gotten off
Listen,
topic here, but
listen, I gotta say two things. I'll start first with saying, as crazy as this might sound, there is probably more drunk people at an Astros game than at the Quick Trip. Maybe. But I'm saying probably. But on average, there's probably
yeah,
more drunk people.
yes,
Okay,
that's true.
maybe not on some days, but on average, right?
Yeah.
And then secondly, I just have to point out really quick to the broad audience that I have never once craved a hot dog from a gas station because
I
that
fucking
just
love them.
dude, that just seems like the most dangerous game I could ever
Oh,
that I could ever
100%.
like
It's
that's like overdoing Taco Bell.
Listen, it's only it's only a gamble if there's the potential to lose. Okay? And with a fucking gas station hot dog, no losing, bud. You're gonna win in
No.
taste and you're gonna lose in bowels every single
Yeah.
time. And that's a
So you're
guarantee. So it's
losing
not
every
a
time.
gamble. It's not a gamble. You're guaranteed to lose. Okay? It's like me in video poker. I'm just donating $100. Okay?
I'm just saying it might be one of the sketchiest things. I might eat. Well, no, I would do the gas station hot dog over gas station sushi still. But my
Okay.
God,
But
if it
but
ain't
dude,
close for my brain, though, dude.
so if you've ever needed to be tempted, then go to a quick trip. Cause like again, it's not like you don't have to do a hot dog at a gas station. Some of us struggle with it. But if you go to a quick
It's
trip, immediately you're gonna go, oh, what like nobody cares about the pump chili and the pump cheese. Nobody cares about that. But
dude.
then they see that fucking garden of refrigerated vegetables that have been cut up and were
Oh,
probably prepackaged before they were dumped in that plastic container. But it's everything, dude. It's
dude.
it's pico. It's
Mm.
straight up onions, straight up cilantro. I think they've got like pickled jalapenos in there. Like it's basically a pepper bar for your hot dog. I don't even know if I'm a now. Okay, let me back up for a second. I'm not even quite sure this applies to the hot dogs, but I put that shit on there anyway. It might be part of a different section, but it's freelance and open to the general public. And they don't charge you by the pound for it. You just pay for the dog. I could have a whole fucking a whole big
Like the
package of pico in there.
it's like the mod pizza of convenience store hot dogs.
Yeah, what do you not pay per topping? You just buy a what?
Well,
Like,
you can do, mod pizza. At least in my experiences, you just go in and you're like, "Hey, I want chicken on there," and they're like, "Okay," and they put chicken on there. You're like, "No, no, no, give me more chicken," and they're like, "Okay."
oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
And you
it's
don't get
basically
charged
like
extra.
that.
I don't, at least from my experience, I haven't been charged extra. But man, you got to get into some kind of like gas station hot dog anonymous group or something, bro. If you're if you're struggling to say no, they must be putting Coke in those things or something, brother. Whew.
Hi, I'm Stefan, and it all started with the cheddar jalapeno. Because, dude,
I've had diarrhea 3 times
dude, honestly, I don't know if it's Quick
this
Trip
week.
or if it's
Mm.
Stripes, but they have one called a confetti dog, and it's got red and green bell peppers in it. And so it kind of looks like confetti on the inside, dude. They stack it with cheese. Fuck it, dude. I don't care. It's legit. All right. We have gone way too far, but
Oh,
I want to kind of dial us
uh,
back in. So I am disappointed that they don't have the relish area, and I'm using
yeah.
that term loosely. I really just need onions over there.
I like the
For
relish and the
for
onions, but
dogs. Right.
yeah.
So next on the list, aside from the Donbury, which we talked about, is wieners. So that is a thing
Okay.
you can get. But they just come in like a clamshell poly thing, 9 times out of 10, they're doused in ketchup. And they're more like Old Smokies, a blend of sausage and Old Smoky, or a little smoky. They're
So it's not a true
smaller.
wiener.
No, they're like smaller and they're smoked.
Okay.
So they have some carryover. Obviously, noodles. So like ramen, udon, soba. We talked about that. Snow cones. That's the only thing on this list aside from the wieners, outside of the context of how they're stored and or sold. It's the only thing on here that I think half-ass fits.
Yeah, well, I mean, you gotta have something for the kids,
You do. Like peanuts and nachos and hot dogs and everything else American.
And like cotton candy, probably.
Yeah, I don't know how much about the cotton. I think they do cotton candy too.
Yeah.
A lot of their games are outdoors. I don't know how consuming alcohol is over there, but
Man, I don't know about I mean, I don't know the weather patterns over there during baseball season or during any season really, but I gotta believe that eating a bowl of noodles in scorching hot weather is just not fun.
probably not. Dude, what I think is hilarious, it's not funny, but it is like there's a team over there called the Dragons and it's written in Dodger font.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Mm-hmm. I was gonna go back real quick. You said yakisoba earlier, and I just immediately thought of the yakisoba that's sold at like the convenience stores here. I mean, like they're just whipping that up, but I know that's obviously not what it is, or at least I hope it's not what it is.
Theirs is probably banging.
Oh yeah, that's just what I thought of.
One last thing that I think we should address, because it's an elephant that it's at least in my internal room, is I have hard lines against certain things on hot dogs. I think ketchup is one of them. But dude, I have been seeing a shitload of people that mayo their hot dog. And I'm going to be honest. If you're a ketchup person, I can understand like connecting the dots on this logic. Okay. I get it. But mayonnaise? It's not a fucking sandwich.
I mean, like, I could mayo it if I was gonna like toast it, like toast the bun.
Oh yeah, but then you're just using that as butter then.
Yeah, but a little bit of mayo on the bun, toast it up a little bit. That makes sense. But just mayo on the dog? No.
Yeah, dude, I'm talking like straight up room temp packet down the side of it.
Oh no. Oh God, I'd rather ketchup, and I hate ketchup.
Yeah. I mean, I like ketchup, but just not on a dog. Dude, I'll dip catfish in it sometimes. We're not even talking about this anymore. The point that we were trying to also, this is a kickoff too for October, right?
Yeah.
We are in the postseason. I don't think this was included on the list, but I'm glad that we are talking about.
We're here.
We are talking about stadium foods. This had nothing to do with the fact that we're in the playoffs for the 7th straight year in a row.
And won the AL West the last 6 full seasons. No big deal. Stole it from the Rangers on the last day.
I'm not going to lie. Dude, there was so much suspense on that day. In fact, like, we got off to we did not plan on covering this, but we got off to a very early lead on Sunday. And I'm not going to say that I was disappointed by that because as an Astros fans, I know that there is never a lead that we can't potentially blow.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm glad that we put like 5 runs up in the first inning. But immediately, you know what that did to my brain? Immediately, I watched probably 35 minutes of our game after that. Immediately, all I watched was the Rangers game. Because at this point, I'm like, if we don't fuck up this lead, which I've seen us do multiple times, but if we don't, then I just need one thing to happen.
Right.
And so I spent a lot of my time split screen, but with all of my eyes on the Rangers game. Yeah. And so it kind of ruined it a little bit for me, but, not at the end once it was all said and done.
Right. I thought it was really funny. I know that, well, obviously I was sitting here in my room watching football, watching the Astros and keeping up with I wasn't watching the Rangers and Mariners, but I was, keeping up with it for the most part. And I got to tell you, boy, over there on Twitter, or X now as they call it, um, Rangers fans were not happy that the Astros were happy about winning the AL West, I guess. Um, in fact, the general manager for the Texas Rangers said that one of the Houston beat reporters was not classy in the way that he handled things. And you want to hear what he said? The Rangers partied too hard Saturday night when they clinched their playoff spot, so they weren't able to perform on Sunday to clinch the AL West. Meanwhile, the Astros,
did the same thing.
No, well, the Astros did a toast Tuesday or Saturday night with one glass of champagne because they had been there and done that, and there were more things to acquire, more hardware to acquire. Rangers did not like that, and for whatever reason, I don't know why, but I mean it's kind of true, right? I don't know how long the Rangers partied and celebrated their playoff appearance, clinching win, but they were definitely throwing champagne around and dancing around in the locker room. Which, I mean, listen, they haven't made the playoffs since 2016, right? So I mean, it's a good accomplishment. I'm not taking anything away from them, but I'm like, how can you be mad about something that clearly happened?
Yeah, I don't, and I mean, obviously, you're gonna poke back and forth. That's the same.
Yeah.
Like, had we lost, the Rangers would have been like, "Yeah, I told you so," and we would have had to have been like, "Yep, buckle under pressure." That's us.
Exactly.
Like, that's the way that it works. I don't understand. I don't think it was done in bad taste. I think the way that he's phrasing it is incorrect. But yeah, it's not in bad taste. But I mean, dude, Arizona, which obviously it didn't matter for them, but you saw Arizona jump into that freaking left field pool or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, dude had a fucking beer snorkel on. He was just like getting it.
And the other thing too is like that entire game, or at least parts of that game, the Rangers game on that this past Sunday, they were complaining about the Diamondbacks not putting out, a stronger roster to play against us on Sunday. Meanwhile, the Rangers were playing against the second string Mariners.
Yes. Also,
what?
At this point, things are not like, dude, it's all baseball statistics, dude. This guy versus this guy in this weather on this day with this bat, whatever. That's the way the game works. I mean, some of it's luck, some of it's passion or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Some of it's skill, obviously. But 90% of the time, it's statistics. So you mean to tell me that the Arizona looking at themselves going, win or lose, our position is the same in the postseason.
Right.
Right? So we're going to go out with the A team? No. You're going to fucking rest our everybody. Guys. Exactly. Yeah. Just like you would with the first round bye, had you held up your end of the bargain, Rangers.
Yeah. And the Mariners said the same thing.
Exactly.
We have no reason to play, our full guys anymore. And I think they took out like 4 people. Yeah, I think they took out like 4 of their starters at some point. I mean, so you just, you don't show up and win the game. Listen, I'm not going to say one team is better than the other in this case, comparing Astros to Rangers.
Yeah.
I think the Rangers had a way better season than, we squandered.
This is the only, this is basically the first time we've led the
I saw a thing that said the Rangers led the division for 152 days. Or 152 games or whatever it was. And the Astros held first place for like 30 something, I think. Because we were tied for a few of those times and whatnot. But, that's what happens when you don't beat your big brother in Texas.
Also,
you lose the tiebreaker.
Also, another thing to mention is like, I do worry sometimes in the postseason when it happens. So like, let's say, right? I'm not going to jinx, but let's say we take the American League, right? We win the ALCS.
By chance.
Right? By chance. There's going to be a hell of a party that ensues. And every time it happens, it still worries me. Let alone if there's the chance of me potentially playing 2 days from the day that we're all getting blasted. 1 day from the day we're all getting blasted.
I don't remember. I feel like last year In 2022, we really didn't party after we won the ALCS. I think they
Um,
might have thrown down like a couple beers, but like I'm pretty sure that they were like, "Listen, we lost last year to the Braves. We're not doing that again. We're here for one
okay.
mission."
So you're right. Maybe it was the Braves year because I remember like it almost seemed like every night, dude, they had some type of it seemed like because the Braves year, did we have to go through the wild card or did we get the first round bye? I can't
No, no,
remember.
no. We've won the ALCS since, I mean, we won the American League
No.
West since 2017, minus 2020.
Okay.
But
Okay. So yeah, you're right. So we haven't necessarily had to play in a wild card situation, but
not since 2015.
yeah.
But
I don't know.
listen,
I just felt like they were nice.
yeah, I just want to point out my stance here for any Rangers fans that might be listening. I don't know if there are any or not, but I'm not taking a shot at y'all are a good team. I'm not taking anything away from that. I'm just saying, why are people mad when facts are being pointed out about how things were handled? That's
Yeah.
the only thing. Yeah, you should celebrate. You made the postseason for the first time since 2016, I think it was. Like that's crazy. It's been 6 years, 7 years. Yeah, you should be happy. But like, don't turn your eye to the fact that maybe y'all did party a little too hard, and maybe we're tired the next day and couldn't play to the full potential. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like we said, the Astros have done. They did it in 2015 whenever we made the wild card, and then we had to play the Royals and we choked it. Like that's just what
It's
happens.
a lot of it's fueled by the interstate rivalry, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think too, this is the first time in a long time. I'm not gonna say since 2016, but this is the first time in a long time where like I'll admit, like we did not, you just mentioned it. We didn't have a whole lot of time where
No.
we were at the top of the league. Normally, because I'm an app guy, right? I log in every single morning, whether I watch the game or not, log in every single morning to the app and I look at one thing. I look at how we performed pitching wise, which I know that we always fight because you're like, we just need fucking bats. I'll leave that in a whole separate corner. But I always look at how we performed pitching wise, and secondly, I look at games behind of the next person. How much of a
Yeah.
gap, right? And this is the first year where can pretty much for the entire fucking year remember logging in and saying, we are 2.5 games at best behind.
Back. Yeah.
Oh, now we're at one. Now we're at five. Oh, now we're at three. Now we're at 2.5. Now we're at one. Now we're at 1.5. There
Yeah.
was never a time where I was looking at it going, oh, thank God the Mariners are this far behind, or oh, thank God the Rangers are this far behind. Or hey, the Rangers. I mean, there's been years where like the Rangers are the A's are like what rocking it above
Yeah.
them. So all that being said, like this year, I felt tremendous pressure
Oh
from the
yeah.
Rangers compared to other years. So like, dude, it is a solid team. It is not a knock against them. You just
No.
can't get pissy when you lose or when you fall victim to your own demise.
Yeah. And that goes for us Astros fans too, you know. If it happens to us, we can't you can't get pissy about it, you know. It's
Oh,
just
dude,
that's just how it
I
is.
talked to all of the folks out in Georgia that I work with frequently. I talked so much fucking trash during that World Series. I was like, this is a wall. Like, I would send a picture, I would send videos of just my fingers like this.
Oh God.
I'm about to walk away with this shit. And
We got
to get up
smacked.
that next morning, yeah, to get up and just have to eat that. Like, I
That's what it's
learn a
about.
lesson? Probably not. However,
No. No.
I had to go to those folks, and they were honestly, I don't know how Rangers fans will be because of the interstate rival, but I will say every single person in Atlanta was like, dude, it was a good ball team. It was a
Yeah.
phenomenal ball team.
Well, that's what it's about, right?
But
It's about the banter. It's about the talk and mess back and
yeah,
forth. That's the fun part of you know, especially rivalry fandoms, right? You talk back. I got a good buddy that's a Rangers fan. We talk crap all the time back and forth, but like you never take it to a personal level. You
nah,
know, never take anything personal. It's just all fun and games. Let's go out and talk crap to each other, and then maybe not shake hands afterwards, but you know, tip the
the
cap.
only I felt terrible about the Phillies. We've talked about this at length, and weren't going to cover this today. But I felt terrible after the Phillies lost because I love that team. It was a
Oh
good
yeah,
team,
yeah.
and I felt terrible about it. And so I didn't. I mean, I was thankful that we won, but I didn't go to all the Phillies buddies that I have and go fucking trash.
Yeah,
Like which
right.
you can do. But I'm also tired of us getting knocked across the face about the cheating scandal too. It's dwindled down drastically, but like that's going to be forever. And that's what people go to. As a Dallas fan, I understand this, okay?
Yeah,
Oh, when's the last time, I mean,
yeah.
fucking when's the last time you won a Super Bowl? Like it's overplayed. Obviously that one's significantly older than the cheating scandal, but it's overplayed. Like come up with something else. Like talk trash about like the fact that most of our offense is our defense. Like talk up trash about that. The fact that we can't
Yeah.
keep wide receivers in a pocket. Like we have weakness on the right side. Talk trash about what's
Things that are
legitimately going
happening.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take
Listen,
that all
yeah.
day long.
Yeah, I'll just say one last thing. Like, yes, the Astros did cheat in 2017. They were not the only team that was doing it, regardless of what you want to think, right?
Yeah.
They might have been the only team that was banging a trash can to relay things, but they weren't the only team that was using technology to steal signs. And that's been very clearly stated in all of the documents that have come out. But that doesn't make it what they did right, by
No.
any means. I'm not saying anything about that. But we've still been to 4 World
Contender.
Series. It's 3 more since 2017. We've lost 2 of them. We've won 1 of them. Like you can't keep pointing at this team and calling them cheaters anymore. You just can't. There's nothing there. Especially the last 2 years, I think, or 3 years even, they've had, people in the stadium that are monitoring the teams so that they can't do anything. So it's like stop. Just it's over. It's gone. Whatever. I'm just tired of hearing it. I'm over it.
I'm tired of last thing, and then we can close out because I think we're probably close to wrap. But like one more
Yeah.
thing that I'll mention is how much phobia you probably more than anyone, right? Um, know the phobia I have about not necessarily just the morale shifting. Like we can go into stories about like Reddick. Fuck, dude, his bat fell off. Wasn't a great right fielder, but morally he had a certain presence about him. I think about these things all the time when it comes to team changes. I said it about JV when he left. Like, how is this fundamentally going to shift the entire team? Like, I probably overanalyze when it comes to that, both from skill and both from a mental standpoint. And you're always like, but Abreu's coming on, like Yuli's gone. Like you're always the one that's level headed and like, hey, let's just play, let's work it the way that it is, and we'll be fine. And I will say this. The team from 2017, 2016, 2017, right? 2017 with the World Series win to now has, there's a couple of faces that are around.
I
But
think
dude,
3.
3. But fundamentally everything that wraps around it completely different,
Everything.
right?
GM, manager,
The front office, the GM,
the rest of
everyone,
the players,
right? And so to me, that is more comforting than having a group that won, than the Dallas Cowboys in the mid 90s, where it was the same fucking cats on the same Coke for 5 years winning Super Bowls, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not, and Coke would be there cheating, right? That's what I'll
Yeah.
chalk that up to, right? But it's not that. It's a program, it's good staff, it's recruiting, it's coaching, it's all of those things. And so that makes me happier, even though I'm a very insecure person when it comes to rosters and like how we're doing this and how we're doing that. That gives me a lot more reassurance. I mean, obviously the legacy won't last forever. Somebody else will be having this conversation in it's too early to say Baltimore at this point. But let's say in Oakland at some point.
They're up there. They're coming.
I know, but I don't want to say it obviously because of the path we have in front of us.
Yeah.
But somebody somewhere is going to be having the same exact conversation when it's not us, and I hope that they get the same fulfillment out of their franchise.
Absolutely.
I don't want that to hit the heart, but that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, it is time for us to get into the WWYBDs here. This is something that I'm realizing we forgot to do the last 2 weeks, but to be fair, I
I thought
think
we WWYBD, didn't we?
we didn't last week. I don't think.
Ah, shit.
For sure. We might have done Guinness, but I'm going to be completely honest with you. For the non alcoholics, all my WWYBDs were going to be basically the same. It's going to be an outdoor activity that I'm doing, that I have to drive to and I don't want to be drunk and driving home. That's what
WWYBD, staying sober. That's what I'd be doing.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll get into it this week. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to hit it first?
Yeah, you go first.
All right. So for this one, I say this a lot that, when certain beers remind me of like playing washers or like, cornhole or something like that. But this is very much one of those beers that I would enjoy while I'm playing some kind of yard game like that, like washers or cornhole. But specifically, I'm at a bar doing it. I'm not like at, a family member's house or my house or a friend's house or something. I'm at a bar that has like a setup outside somewhere and I'm with some buddies and that's what we're doing. So
mine is I can definitely see that. Obviously, I think I would choose something else, not because of the branding or whatever, but I do think I would choose something else. I don't necessarily absolutely love this one. If it's around, I would drink it, but this to me is like if immediately what I thought, and I wrote this down almost instantly after I tasted it, like if I'm trying to have something that, like if I'm troubleshooting an issue with my vehicle or I'm doing like oil changing something, like I'm in the garage, I got some classic rock tunes on, but I don't want to drink a Miller Lite, or I want something that's hometown, more flavor, crafty in style. This is what I would go to.
Maybe
like, I got a
listening
fucked up
to
rotor.
Love Street
Yeah.
by the Doors.
I think it's a jacked up B-side, highly unlikely, but yes. Now that I know that they definitely correlate with an air quote, I would say yes. But no, yeah, you're like doing something, like you have a purpose that you don't hate because you enjoy it a little bit, right? But it's still a necessary evil, but I want some flavor in my life. That's what I think.
That's fair. I can see that for sure. All right, let's get into the ratings here as well. I think you went first last week, so I can go first this week.
Cool.
Entry, I have a 3. It's pretty middle of the road here. Nothing special. Aftertaste, I have a 2. I actually think it falls off a little bit for me on the aftertaste. You kind of lose it really quick once you swallow. Body, I have a 3 as well. Again, just pretty middle of the road. Color, I have a 4. I thought there was, it could have been a little bit darker for like a blonde.
Wait, what was your score on color?
4.
Okay.
Could have been like a little bit darker considering it's, original is a blonde. Usually those are a little bit darker than this was. But obviously it's a light, so it's pretty middle of the road as well. Bitterness, I have a 4. It's not too bitter. It's a light beer. Pretty spot on for me. Acidity, I have a 3. Really just because I don't get a lot of fruitiness that I get from a Love Street,
Yep.
It honestly could have been a 2, but I gave it the benefit of it. I mean, it's still not bad. And fizz, I gave it a 4. I think the burps could have been a little bit more consistent, but when I did have them, they weren't bad. And I did have them throughout the whole episode, just not a lot. So that brings my total to a 23.
So I think some of this is driven by what we eat a little bit.
Probably.
I mean, again, I don't think it changes my score, but I want to make a call out on the fact that, like, I wish we could had a bunch of data that said, like, if you input this, right? Whole grains and this and that and then or whatever, or like gas station hot dog. Those with beers on top of them, how does that stack up? But anyways, we don't have time for that. So entry, I have a 3. I think it comes in as just whatever. I actually do have my aftertaste at a 3, and here's why. I don't think it really drops off. It just kind of starts it like starts neutral and ends neutral. I don't think I get a lot of drop off. At least my taste buds didn't. Body, I have a 3. Honestly, could have made an argument for a 4 because I mean, it sticks the way that it should for a super light beer. I mean, it's obviously fairly light. 96 calories, 3 carbs. Like but I'm gonna keep it at a 4. Color I had at a 3. This is one of the first score. This is one of a very few scores that I changed after about 5 minutes, and here's why. It's been a long time since I've seen like a pint of. Because you think we're comparing this to Miller Lights, we're comparing this to Bud Lights, we're comparing this. It's a craft, but it's in the same category, strength wise, and everything else. And I don't think like a Miller Lite might have a little bit darker of a tinge. I know a Bud Light doesn't, but it's still in the category. So color, I have middle of the road at a 3. Bitterness, I have a 3. I think for it being what it is, it's not more than neutral, and it's not any less. Acidity, also have a 3. I'm not getting more, I'm not getting less. Fizz, I had it at 2. Again, this is why I brought up the whole situation about what I've eaten. So, of course, now. That's the first burp that I've had throughout the entire time.
Yeah.
So I do have it at a 2. They weren't ugly, they just did not happen. And then the fact that head immediately collapsed and I didn't have burps, I was kind of connecting the two together. But that brings my total score to a 20. I would definitely go the full strength and have a regular, regardless of my absolutely outrageously unjustified hate for their branding. I would have the full strength Love Street, in my opinion. I would drink something else that's lighter if I was going the light route.
Yeah. I personally wouldn't buy it again. I wouldn't let these sit necessarily.
Oh, no.
Like they're not like fridge sitters. I would still drink them. I wouldn't necessarily buy them again over the regular Love Street. Again, I would take the extra calories and carbs or whatever that it takes for the extra taste and flavor that you get. But wouldn't necessarily seek it out again personally. If someone brought it to me, I would drink it.
I agree. So, wholeheartedly with all of that.
All right, well, we've gotten to that point in the podcast where I'm going to tell you to go follow us on Twitter and TikTok at Off the Tap Pod, and on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Off the Tap Podcast.
Now that we're back in the swing of fully leaded beverages, I'm going to leave you with this little piece of advice. Don't push it too hard, because then you might have to bitch for no reason the next day.